How are you?
Good, busy. I'm always basically, if you ask me, I'm always good,
You're always
even
good.
when I'm
Yeah,
bad.
I'm the same way.
I'm fairly
There's
optimistic.
no other. There's no other way to be. I had
Yeah.
I had a grandmother that lived with us for a couple years. Near the end of her life, she had dementia and she lost a leg, and so she was a handful. But all her life, and then it was accentuated at the end. She was incredibly optimistic, just positive, and her sons are the same. My father and my uncle are the same way. Like the uncle I think I was telling you is the one who had stage 4 lung cancer, and it's like, yeah, hopefully they'll give me a pill and I'll be fine. They
Yeah.
didn't think twice about it, and it turned out to be that way.
So even with the
But
dementia, the optimism came through still.
yeah,
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 that's interesting.
and it was such an interesting thing to watch because if it was a facade, it would have gone away with the dementia. But it's just in her character to be just so optimistic. We laughed because she'd get the flu or sick, and she'd have like a 1 hour intense flu, and then it'd be gone. And I'd never seen anyone like that.
Yeah.
It was like,
That's weird.
So I don't know if that was mental or what, but
Yeah.
interesting.
It's cool.
So
But you
be
inherited
an
that.
optimist. Well,
Or it's just the.
I had a period when I was in my teens, mid-teens, late teens. I had so my parents were super young, 17 when I was born, but I had a lot of and then my mother divorced, so then I had another father. Anyway, I had like tons of grandparents, and my parents being so young relied on them a lot. So I was with grandparents at different times a lot, and I saw lots of influential adults early in my life, and I remember as a teenager at some point taking inventory of their personalities and saying, okay, I want this from this grandfather and this from my grandmother, and try and incorporate those features into my personality.
Yeah.
And it was a conscious thing. And I think back, I wish people had that. I guess you do it with school teachers maybe a little bit sometimes, but it's, yeah, everybody's got good and we've all got good and bad in us.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I ever really did that on a conscious level. You probably kind of do that subconsciously a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And who
I
you
imagine.
end up emulating.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. But I think sometimes you emulate, oftentimes, like our kids will, this is one thing hard about having children is they'll get your personality. And you'll see the bad things from yourself in them and hopefully the good things. But it's like, oh, and then you work so hard. It's like, okay, I can't show that part of my personality because I don't want that to transfer.
Yeah.
But I think if you can get teenagers to make conscious choices of who they want to be, because you have the choice. Totally have the choice.
So how do you think AI is going to play into this? And the reason I ask is because I've been spending more and more time like talking to AI, having conversations, and I'm using it as a tool for work mostly, almost exclusively, to get more done. But it's not hard to imagine like a bunch of teenagers and stuff like this is going to be like they'll think of it in like a friendly term.
Friend.
Yeah. So we're talking about encountering people, and in your case, you selected like good things about them, and then in this instance, it's like, well, somebody selected everything about the AI that people are encountering, and so what do they take from that?
They can influence. That's where if we think Google search skewing election results by what they autofill or suggest showing the search results makes a difference. Think about the difference in what, Google's Gemini or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
Is it Gemini still?
Yeah.
If it's talking to your kid in a certain way.
Right.
I mean, that's actually scary to me.
Yeah. I got to tell you, though, this last week, I became, I don't know, 25, 30% more optimistic on the human future and human importance. I was already, like, probably more than a lot of people in our space. And there's a few things that led to that. Number one, I did a deep dive on simulacra. And this came from...
What is simulacra?
Yeah. So I have these thoughts, right? And then I can't like put them into words always. So then I'll hit the AI. I'm like, here's kind of what I'm thinking. And it'll be like, oh yeah, this philosopher already thought about that.
For that.
Yeah. And so I guess simulacra, simulation, you can see how that word, what the origins are. But it's just like, it's the fake basically what I was telling you, like the reflection of something, but it's not the real thing. And as I dove into that thought process, it's like, yeah, you can't have anything. There's no simulacra that even makes sense without referencing reality. So even if you're totally immersed in nothing but simulacra, you're still going to have this like missing puzzle piece, something that's being referenced.
That's that's the that's like a second derivative argument of Plato and the forms.
Yeah.
Right? It's like everything in reality
But-
isn't even there. It's only
Yeah.
a reference, a shadow of God. Or
That
the
could
forms.
be if you were like in a VR thing, yeah. But it's like even when we're talking about AI and personality, and the teenagers, and if that was like who they hung out with, let's say they hung out with like 10 people. Well, some engineer was like, we need to give this thing a personality. What's a personality? That's a human thing. Like it points back to a real thing, and you can't get away from it. So there's that. That's got me feeling like you just can't get away from it. You can you can simulate. You can be immersed in simulacra, but it points to something, and I'm dead set on that. I don't think there's any way around it. Doesn't matter the technology.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But the problem is, remember, the word I always use is effectively.
Yeah.
And I'm a little more negative. Google just bought Character.ai for $2.7 billion. This was
This slipped under my radar.
yeah. So this was one of Google's DeepMind guys left. Oh, he made a chat bot like a few years ago. And Google's like, yeah, we aren't going to release that. He's like, screw you, I'm out of here. And went and started his own company, Character AI. And within like, I don't know, 24 months, 36 months, they passed 100 million. And so Google just bought them to get him back.
Okay.
It's this new kind of merging technique. It's basically to buy the people.
Interesting. Yeah.
And Character AI.
An acqui-hire.
Yeah, acqui-hire, you got it. And Character AI is, it's your AI friend.
Yeah.
Android iPhone app. And
maybe I have seen
I think
that.
there's a lot of people.
Is it viral? Or a lot of younger people are using it, right?
I assume a lot of younger people. I mean, if they're passing $100 billion, I don't know what their monetization scheme is, but they have to be having a lot of usage. Mm-hmm. And knowing what I know about people, especially young people, I'm just really concerned that they're gonna,
But see,
and maybe that's good in one way. They have someone to talk to,
something to talk to.
Right?
Maybe I think there is utility in that. But see, now I'm not even saying. I think you can be non-optimistic on that front. Like I do think people will settle. I'm not saying that people won't settle.
You're saying that people will always have value.
I'm saying that reality will always have a way to break through, and I'm confident of that. It doesn't mean that people are going to be happy and whatever, But so there's that, right? But then also, every now and then, there's like a tool I really want to dabble in, and I just don't have the time. I tried it for a while. I canceled my subscription. I'm gonna have to get back into it. But Runway, right? That's text to video to whatever. And as I was going through some of their promotional content, they're gonna do like a film fest, like they're doing 100 new. They're trying to showcase their stuff. But anyways, they're interviewing people that are using it heavily. And this one guy's like, the hardest part is coming up with ideas. Like you can do all this stuff, but he's still like, by default, I would have thought, oh, here's this AI video company. It's just like a lot of people be like, it's over for creators, But here's the dude like immersed, and he's like, no, I can't even. It's hard to come up with ideas, and that's going to be what separates the wheat from the chaff here, And it's just like even on the cutting edge tools, it's the human that counts the most still, like steering things.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'm so convinced.
I used to think that though.
I don't know if I'm so convinced. I think we mentioned last week the LSAT, the OpenAI's O1 coming out, and it gets basically 100% in the LSAT.
Yeah, but what does that mean though?
Well,
humans aren't going to stop living just because the thing is.
No,
you know what I mean.
It's just for me, it's illustrative of another segment industry group of jobs that are going to be weaned, harshly weaned. If the LSAT, getting a perfect score, so like, I don't know, 30 people in the U.S. get a perfect LSAT score, and probably 500,000 or 1 million people take it. That's insane.
Yeah.
And if it can think so legalistically, if it can reason that well, why 99% of the time are you going to hire an attorney?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's still the purpose. So when I hear something like that, my mind still goes to like, okay, if I'm the dude and my job's replaced, now what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so like I'm going to take the tool and deploy it somehow.
It's funny because, if you think of royalty or you think of aristocracy in the past, if I ask you to go back to 1780, whatever, 1830 Victoria, England, and I ask you some random duchess on their estate, what is she doing? If you just had to visualize, if you had to be a creator,
not a ton, yeah.
what is she doing? But she's probably like painting,
right,
or gardening,
yeah,
or writing letters.
Yeah.
She's doing creative things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's when we don't have jobs, we all turn creative.
It very well could be, and now we're getting back into like human nature and everything. One thing I have to bring up is I've been listening to more of Plutarch's Lives. I dip into books like here and there, right? And that one's really long. And I told you I was doing the Federalist Papers, and then it was like,
Did you finish them?
Not yet,
Okay.
but it's like
You jump around.
Yeah, but people in there were
ADHD.
not at all, just genius. But people jump around like and somebody in there, I forget which of the founding fathers, was like, oh yeah, Plutarch's Lives, and I remembered like, oh yeah. So it's kind of like encountering a friend in a way, even though I never met, because it's like, we both. Yeah. And so I went back, and there's some funny stuff in Plutarch's Lives. But one of the things was someone brought up Alexander the Great's dad, and Alexander was like playing music or something, and people were like clapping or whatever, and the dad was like, "Aren't you embarrassed? Like that's for some people, but that's not like a kingly thing,
right?"
And it was the discussion of time, like, what are you spending your cognition on, And he's like, you could enjoy that like somebody else, but it's like, your role is like not to be really good at music. And I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I remember that story. Yeah. I honestly don't prognosticate, but I don't know that I can see it. It's going to bin. We're going to have a chunk of the population who uses character AI and never has a girlfriend again, right? Girlfriend, boyfriend. And you're going to have some chunk of the population that becomes hyper-productive using the tools.
Yeah.
You have some chunk of the population that's very creative with the artists, or very creative and they make cool art, writings, whatever. So it's probably going to drop into bins. And I think what we tend to focus on is the negative, right? And I'm afraid of those people who no longer have real life connections, who don't get married, who don't have families.
Yes.
That back in an agrarian society, 90% of them would have had that.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a lot more fulfilling, I think, at the end than I just had a synthetic relationship.
Yeah. Well, definitely. So. I actually hashed this out a little bit too this week. And so I saw somebody again in the AI circles talking about, post-scarcity society. And for them, it's just pure utopia, right? Because they got blinders on, and why could it
Abundance.
How could it be any other way? Yeah. So I kind of dug into that. And basically, for nobody, if you haven't been paying attention, it's like when costs get closer to zero, or maybe not exactly down to zero, but things are cheap. And the way like Elon would describe it is like, if you want something, you can have it. Okay. But I think there's going to be some groups, and you tell me what you think about this. There's the general public, right? What is that going to mean for them?
Okay.
So if they have their basic needs met, like food, housing, healthcare, and that's all free or nearly free, are people still going to choose to work? That's a question. What's going to motivate them if survival isn't a thing, right? And what you're asking is, would creativity and leisure thrive? But what I'm saying is, are new divides then going to emerge? Okay, so then you have like the elite and the corporations, and this could be a future controlled by the people who own AI and the data. And then you got to ask what that looks like. Is there a wealth shift from material goods to the control of information and technology? So the divide might be information more than material. Material is one thing, right? I got free food and free healthcare, and I got a house and a car. And I wonder if that would be the new ruling class. So I don't know what you think about that. But then you also have the government, right? And they're going to try to regulate stuff. They're going to try to regulate AI-driven abundance. And so this isn't really a question for the government. This is more for people outside the government. But how do you balance, public good with private innovation, right? This is the same thing we're dealing with now, but on a totally different level. The government, are they going to try to ensure everyone has equal access to resources? Are they going to stifle tech progress then? So I don't think you're going to get away from this discussion on fairness and innovation.
It's the same.
It's no different. If you
Yeah.
have more material goods,
Don't-
it's not
it's
different.
only amplified. Well, the material versus the people who own the. I think we have definitely shifted away. We'll shift dramatically away from, the output is labor and capital,
Yeah.
and it's going to move to capital.
Yeah.
And so those with the most capital will have more power,
Yeah.
and labor will have less leverage. If you think about it, let's say right now, let's say I'm Musk. This is like a real life example. Tesla, the employees want to unionize. He's been through this once or twice already. He's won and they didn't unionize. 10 years from now, if Optimus is on the line and they want to unionize, he'll just get rid of the labor.
Yeah.
So now it's just purely his capital is running Tesla.
Only if they want to unionize?
Yeah,
or?
maybe even
I'm guessing anyways.
Anyways, but the point is, labor, which is people, will have less leverage, and
Yes.
so that's going to be a dramatic change.
Yeah.
It's going to be a dramatic change, and hopefully, what happens is less labor. Maybe we're much more of a gig economy, and the $10 I made this week buys me everything I want. And so now I work 1 hour and I have 39 hours. And so maybe that is. So, by the way, if you haven't read Peter Diamandis' Abundance, it's a great book talking about this optimistic version of the AI future.
But I pressed a couple AI models and I was like, just logically, what do you see happening? Do you see this really
Abundance or dystopia?
well abundant? But I don't think you can say abundance necessarily equals the utopia. Like, is it going to be utopian?
Yeah, materialistic utopia. You clearly have to say that. Like, we have more abundance now than we've ever had in history.
Yeah.
But are we utopian?
Yeah.
Or are we worse? Are we better?
Well, they all concluded was like, who's building AI now? And they're obviously going to continue their incentives into the future. And I think that's the whole discussion, basically. Like, it's not like people don't understand. Like, AI isn't just inherently going to be good or awesome. Like,
The ship inherits the personality of the captain.
Yes.
The captains of the AI industry are currently a psychopathic Sam Altman.
You want to talk about
Sure,
the
yeah,
equity?
yeah.
Okay, you bring it up. You introduce this.
Yeah. So let's see. So they're definitely converting to a for-profit.
OpenAI was supposed to be
OpenAI,
nonprofit and transparent.
funded by Elon Musk and some others. As Elon Musk has a good line, he's like, so you start a company to save the rainforest,
Yeah.
and that company, and you give them money, and that company turns around and destroys the rainforest and keeps the money.
Yeah.
He says, doesn't that seem wrong? Doesn't that
Yes.
seem illegal? So I think there's definitely some inside baseball going on because
Well, is someone going to sue to stop this? I mean, can you do that? I guess you could if you want. Convert from nonprofit to for-profit?
Yeah,
Nothing prevents
I'm
that.
sure he's got teams of lawyers, right? They have billions of dollars, and
Yeah.
but he did have a exodus. His top 4 people have left,
Right.
And so he's. I saw a great meme of Stalin. You know how Stalin airbrushed people out of the picture.
Yeah.
This is gone from history. They had the 4 OpenAI founders, Sam
Right.
Altman and his 3 people here, Mira, whatever her name is, and the 2 other guys, Ilya, and slowly they airbrushed one of them out to where now Sam's just sitting in front of the couch by himself.
Right. Well, it's funny because he's got a $10 billion stake or something like that at the moment, the way things are standing.
They're going to give him, he's trying
So it
to
went from
take
nonprofit-
7% to getting $10 billion.
Yeah. And he was at Congress, like 3 months ago or less?
I don't need money.
No, he was like, someone asked him, and he's like, I'm just doing it because I love it. What are you talking about? Yeah.
I think he's an evil guy.
You do?
I think, yeah.
He makes it into my lib tech folder.
Yeah,
quite a
one
bit.
of my things, I saw him, I don't know, London or somewhere, and he was driving a $2 million sports car.
Yeah, Bugatti or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't Bugatti. I didn't recognize
was
it.
something.
Maybe it was Bugatti. Anyway, and it's like, that doesn't work for me. That's you've got your priorities misplaced there.
Yeah.
I really like Musk. Musk isn't. doesn't seem to flash his money around that much.
Yeah, yeah. The shiny object for him is like something that he views as good for everybody.
Visionary. It happens to align with our
Yeah,
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
something that's really good for himself. But yeah, no, that is interesting how that all played out. I can't tell if Musk's revenge is just going to be through Grok or if it's something else. Like he has so much on his plate. Maybe he's done with the OpenAI thing directly. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, because that just turns into a infinitely long lawsuit
Yeah,
with tons of attorneys on both sides. So I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, but fortunately, like I said, I used to think he with the biggest data center wins when the music stops. Now I think no. I think it's more about alignment to human values, and
yeah.
you can have a model that's 97% good, one that's 99% good, and in the end, that extra couple percent doesn't matter to us. What matters is it. I mean, think about people who you want to socialize with,
Yeah.
who you want to hang out with. Does an extra IQ point or a couple make the big difference? No, the personality and the alignment with your values.
Yeah.
That matters.
So I noticed an interesting.
That's why I hang out with you.
That's I don't know.
That's a backhanded compliment.
I noticed an interesting shift though in OpenAI in particular with their new model. I don't know if you picked up on this. I used to have to really steer it really hard to give me the answers that I wanted, and now it is trying to just adapt and be an echo chamber and a bubble to me. But it still couches things in like from your perspective, but then it tells me everything I want to hear. But it does couch it in like this may not be the actual truth, but from your perspective. So it's really kowtowing to what it thinks I want to hear now, which is interesting. But it also sucks from a society standpoint because all you're going to do is end up with a bunch of people in their own little bubbles without a connecting fiber of objective truth running through the lives of the citizenry, and that's not good. I don't think. I in fact I don't appreciate it. I know what they're doing, and they're maximizing for profit.
And
but
the weaker the relationships, real human relationships,
Yeah.
the weaker society's got to become, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Plus, you're so much more likely to think about road rage. Your people act. I had a French employee, this girl from France, when I lived in San Francisco, and she had this thing about how people acted like idiots in cars, and she said they would never do that face to face. And it's that lack of connection, right? It's that anonymity. I can road rage and I can, be
Yeah.
aggressive. And if you don't know someone, you don't spend time with them, you don't interact face to face, I think we're more likely going to have division, dispute, aggression,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like society's in a weird place right now for so many reasons. But speaking of cars, it was really driven home, man.
No
It just comes off the top. This dude was driving around in a truck and he had a skeleton. It's Halloween coming up, right? And the skeleton was flipping everybody off facing the car behind. And after you're like, what in the world am I seeing? But it's like, why would you want to say that to everybody that you're driving around? You know what I mean? Like, where are we at? Like to your fellow Americans, because maybe he just can't connect with. He doesn't feel like he identifies with anyone. So the random car behind him, he's gonna.
It's funny. I just saw last week a rear window LED thing you put on the rear window of your car, and you hit a button and it flips people off behind you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems to be a theme.
Just
there.
people aren't. They're too
People aren't
disconnected.
civil.
No, and it's sad because I want us to all be on a team. Like we should be a team. And I actually saw a really interesting way of somebody, who was it, discussing the importance of countries and different cultures being like a firewall of sorts. And that was really fascinating to me because here we have this push for globalization, homogenization, and I think that there's something interesting about that. What do you think about that? Like having that as a
I've thought
firewall?
a lot about that. I think you have to have shared values and shared history and shared language and shared culture, and we are definitely destroying that, right?
Yeah.
Globalism's destroying that. Immigration, we've talked about this. They used to integrate. People used to integrate. Now it's like we have to try and keep their culture alive.
Yeah.
That we're gonna broadcast the prayer chants through Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah.
And let them eat cats.
And this video is never gonna see light.
Whatever. Done.
It's not like they do anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I think that's the case. So I want to talk about that. So in the early United States, they used to bond a lot more over states,
yep.
right? And then slowly, I guess maybe in the 1900s, it turned into more about country.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the car, maybe movement
Yeah.
facilitated that. I don't know. And now they're trying to destroy the country.
Mm-hmm.
I finally found, it took me several years. I just had a minute and was able to figure it out. I did find later that it is true later in Jefferson's life, he decided that states were too big and that we had to be more community based and that governing should happen all the way down to like a county level.
County. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had heard that years ago and I could never find verification that it was true.
Yeah.
But he wrote about that to some people in letters and he's
So
like, this isn't going to work. So it's this pull, it's this whole Hamilton Jeffersonian pull between centralized power and governance, even now going to world, to local community, which I think Jefferson was right. I mean, just the problems we're talking about. If you don't have something to bond over, and how do you bond with the entire human race?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, if we're attacked by aliens, maybe we'll bond together. But
Frankly, I like that. The hyper localizing. I like it. My question is, we had the state system, and now you're talking about it's morphing into country and / even the globe. Would it just have been inevitable and just a little bit slower if we had done like the county thing, made that more important? Where people are identifying
at the beginning,
Yeah, I mean, like, would it just have put off a little
Yeah.
bit longer? Like, it seems like we're trending in this direction, no matter what. Unfortunately,
it does, although I have seen a little counter trend in the last 10 or 15 years, right? With like the Trump movement or, different countries, Orban. I mean, different countries are taking pride in their country, some of them, and pushing to keep it. I mean, I saw Italy last week. Did you see the way did you see, did you see the picture of the Italian prime minister with Trump?
with Musk,
Yeah. You think there's a little
People
spark
were
there?
wondering if they're like dating or
Yeah,
something. Even Elon's mom was getting in on it. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
That's
she was like,
funny.
someone said something about what happened after this, and May chimed in and said, "I took him back to his hotel room." Like
Funny.
Yeah.
But even Italy put in, and she made a statement about
why didn't she do that earlier? The whole immigration. That's why she was elected, and then it seemed like she just.
Yeah.
She didn't do anything, and now after all the immigration already happened, now
I think
I don't get that.
some people need to experience things on their own to really learn, right? To really feel the pain underneath it.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's just ask Sweden.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know how. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it's the same old thing. You can see different systems at play around the world. This is that idea of the firewall, though. Like, and even like from a scientific perspective, science kind of took root in a certain area while it wasn't taking root in other areas. And if everything was just all the same, I just don't think that's not good for so many reasons, right? And it's actually more enriching, I think, for everybody if you have cultures around it you can interact with, but you can't have everything be all the same for a lot of reasons. And you can see North and South Korea, right? You can see the difference. You can even see Haiti and its next door neighbor. There's a very marked difference between how those same exact island,
same people. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, different history.
By the way,
Different
I saw
governance.
Am I Racist? Did you see it?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Is it good?
Yeah.
We're seeing?
And we took some people to go see it.
Excellent.
And
Is it streaming?
was only in the theater.
It's not
so
streaming
far.
yet.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do this, or like early release stream where you can pay $25 and have it streamed the same time as the theater. So
Yeah. Well, I saw Robin DiAngelo, like she deleted all her tweets and stuff now because he basically went through and just exposed like it's a big money making grift. And some people knew that already, but it's just like a lot of people didn't realize it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And so this is funny because
He's funny.
I got a friend and we were talking the other day and he was like, who's going to win the election? He asked me every now and then. And this time, instead of like laying it all out, like we're just on kind of like different levels. I was just like, what do you think? And so he's talking about, well, I didn't see the debate. You probably watched the debate. The only thing I heard was there's 2 clips. You'll know the one clip because you already brought it up.
Yeah.
The cats and dogs. But there was another one, and he's like, "That's all that I'm seeing in my timeline."
What was the second one?
I can't remember.
Oh,
I
shucks.
can't remember.
Because that's what I came away from it saying just that. If you
Yeah.
remember, it's like, okay, this is what people will remember.
You predicted
and maybe
that.
that's good. I don't know what the second one was. I'd be interested in knowing
Yeah.
what the second one was.
But he is very
Oh,
immersed.
I have a concept of a plan.
No, I don't think that he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. But he's not immersed in stuff. Like he's not aware. Whatever's, I think, probably gets his news from TikTok. I saw the percentage the other day, like how many people get from TikTok, and it's just like,
Well, it's promising. I've seen recent Quinnipiac had a poll yesterday, came out yesterday, and Hispanics, Trump is carrying Hispanics by like 8 points, and Biden won them by 11 last time. That's a 19-point swing. I mean, that's insane.
yeah,
The and you saw the Teamsters
Yeah.
deal. That's unbelievable. That hasn't happened
Yeah.
in decades and decades.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame poll came
Yeah.
out, and the students were picking Trump, and that's like never happened.
no.
So
I really do respect Charlie Kirk's TPUSA thing because it's all about college campuses, and he goes into the Lion's Den and has conversations,
hit him earlier.
handing out the red hats. Okay, but this is what's interesting. You got to remember, I didn't mean to be a liberal, but I just kind of was by default. Like and for the last election, so I encountered these things about the last election, and I'm reassessing, right? And somebody's like, "Here's the moment when I realized something was wrong with the election," and I think it was either a CNN clip or it was MSNBC. I can't remember the network. It wasn't Fox. And they were covering Georgia, I believe. This is like a 2-minute clip, and there's like 2% of the vote left to count, and I think Trump was up by 2%, and you probably know exactly what I'm going to say. It would have had to be 100% of that last 2% that went to Biden. Otherwise, it was pretty split. So if that continued, you would have expected it to be more or less split.
So with elections, so I think I mentioned I ran a state senate campaign for someone, and so I've been at like an election wonk for a long time. And what I do as the night's going on, it's almost like watching a Super Bowl or something. I will drill down to the precincts in the counties, see how they're splitting. So I do my own like decision desk calling. It's like I know statistically, mathematically when you can call it.
yeah.
And I mean, it was maybe about midnight where it was like, okay, it's impossible. We got it, right?
Yeah.
They'd all have to be 100% in these counties. That's impossible.
Yeah.
And no, sure enough, Georgia was the one who said, oh, we had a water main break. Everybody go home, get out.
Yep.
And it ended up being a urinal somewhere. It wasn't like a major thing. It was a lie.
Yeah.
And then they wheeled out the suitcases from below the desks.
Right. You can
started
see the
scanning.
footage.
You can watch the footage
Yeah.
with your own damn eyes.
Yeah.
And you can see her run these stacks of like perfect ballots and then take them out and put them back.
Yeah.
Take them out. And she does this one like 5 times. So there's like 500 or that maybe 200 per stack. Maybe that's 1,000 votes right there.
Right.
In Georgia was 10,000. We saw 1,000 votes happen within 2 minutes. And she wasn't the only one. Her daughter was there. I mean, we don't have to relitigate that, but how people just overlook that. It's like you sent home the election watchers,
Yeah.
and then you stayed and pulled out suitcases of ballots. Yeah, reran them over and over again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Looks fishy.
It's crazy. And so there's that. And, I even remember during the January 6th stuff, this video has no chance of seeing the light of day.
Never. We're having fun talking about that.
Yeah, I basically absorbed whatever the media was saying, right? And now I'm encountering these threads like there's this dude who's like, I was at the protest. I was on the other side of the building from where the violence was. Wasn't even anywhere. And okay, here's all the bad things that have happened to me. He said the FBI called my employer, so I got fired. I've got another job. They did the same thing. I got fired again. He had family problems. He had to give up the company car. That was his only car. It was just this long list of things for absolutely zero reason. Things that never happened to other riots, not even protests, but rioters. You know what I mean? Like, and it'll just make your blood boil. Like
It's it is so nefarious and evil. They, like I'm thinking with Eric Adams, is that his
Yeah.
name? Mayor of New York. I think they will make an example of people.
That's what they
they will
hope.
do. Yeah.
And they hope that's enough.
They hope that scares people away. And I mean, it kind of would. Like, as that was happening on January 6th, I told my sons that I'd go in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you were watching live video of them walking through the velvet ropes.
Right.
They weren't like burning the building down.
Yeah.
They weren't stabbing people.
Uh-huh.
They were walking through and taking selfies with guards.
Yeah.
And trying to.
That's not funny.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of something. Did you see the clip of the I think it's a comedian dude, and maybe we already talked about this, so stop me if we did. But the FBI showed up and he was like, "What's your name? I need your name, identification." And these guys look so sheepish. And they were like, "We're here to talk to you about..." No, what's your name? And he's like, "I don't want to give my name."
I saw that.
Can you shut the camera off?
Yeah.
And this
No.
guy had the exact right way to deal with it.
Right.
I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong.
Because of a post you made on Facebook. Wasn't that the
Yeah,
one?
yeah. So they're policing what you can say,
It's unbelievable.
but they're not. But it's just intimidation. We're
Right.
just there to talk.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and you take, you have to, you have to stand up. People have to stand up.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to go overthrow the government.
No.
But you have to stand up and not take it and be willing. I watched Bannon. I watched Navarro.
Uh-huh.
Navarro came out of prison to give his speech at the convention. I mean, like that, like hours ago, he was in prison.
Right.
And now he's standing in front of the Republican convention. And he said, "I'm happy I did it. I do it again.
Yeah.
Right. This is what it's going to take. That's worth it."
Yeah.
I don't know how long he was in, 6 months maybe, but I probably would do that. I'd probably give up some months in prison for enough of a cause. We talk about how far would you go?
Yeah.
Would I give up 10 years for freedom of speech? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Depends on the thing. Yeah. Basically, it's the frog in the pot thing. How slow can you do the boil?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
They cranked it up with Trump, and I think it might backfire.
Yeah.
It might be backfiring.
Yeah, but it's crazy. Like, you hear about these missiles supposedly getting smuggled in. The surface
From Iran,
surface
supposedly.
air. Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah.
Whether true or not, like.
Yeah, well, they're gonna. Yeah, the theory, the conspiracy theory is that they're gonna take Trump's plane down
But
go into one of his rallies.
if they took out Trump, I don't care how they did it. Then you got JD Vance right there. Like, they don't want that either.
Yeah,
So it doesn't really do that much.
but they aren't thinking rationally.
Yeah.
That's what you have to remember. They aren't rational actors all the time.
Yeah.
So their derangement will take them to any level.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a colleague who's on the far left end of the spectrum, and we're talking about the election, and like, do you like Harris? Because I would assume you're in the 70% of Democrats 2 months ago who thought she was the worst. Now she's the best. It's like, well, I'm like, well, it's okay if you just admit you're towing the party line, that you aren't thinking for yourself.
Yeah.
Just admit that. That's fine if you do that. Because I get that.
I'd like to see this.
Yeah. But his new criticism was, well, it's better than that other guy. Trump is the laziest man in history. Lazy? This is a new attack vector. What are you talking about? Lazy is like, I mean, you can call him a lot of things, but lazy is like he only sleeps 4 hours a night. He's gone to 5 rallies this week.
Yeah.
What's the story? Yeah, but he likes those. Well, okay, lazy doesn't equate to doing something you don't like.
Yeah.
Lazy, you can be a gardener and enjoy your work. That doesn't mean you're lazy. So it's just the derangement, and this is a PhD. This guy's got a PhD. He's really smart, and it's like the derangement just pushes them so far that they can't think clearly.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Like, if there was a really well put together, incredibly likable, well spoken conservative that thought all the same things as Trump, but presented it real polished.
Yeah.
It's not that it's Trump that they don't like.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Oh no, and that's the myth too, right? I've lived through it all. They castigated Reagan. Reagan was evil. They went after him hard. Bush, he's the biggest idiot. They went after him hard. You know, they wanted to lock them up for the weapons of mass destruction. You know, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Bush lied, people died. And I mean, they hate conservatives. Doesn't matter who you are. They'll love certain conservatives who are less conservative later, like Cheney endorsing Kamala. They'll love Cheney now. It's
Yeah.
like, you guys thought, I mean, they're so inconsistent. You guys thought he was a war criminal.
So what is that in the big picture?
What is it?
Well, is it just the neocon? I mean, like, it appears to be that there's just a industrial complex,
Oh, yeah.
probably mostly military or intelligence, but maybe
Mostly intelligence, I think.
yeah. But some other things are starting to blend in, like the pharmaceutical industrial complex and some other things.
Well, it's wherever you can have corporate cronyism, wherever you can have industry or people who govern influence policy
yeah,
for their own benefit.
yeah,
That's where it is. And we know, I mean, duh.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to do that. That's what, you do.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a better cup to sell more cups to people.
Right.
That's in my own interest. And
Yeah.
it happens to be in their interest and they can voluntarily buy them or not. But
Right.
that's not the way this works. It's like, we're going to make you, we're going to give you big campaign money if you mandate our shots.
yeah.
You know, it's a terrible, that's why you got to get rid of big government.
That's true.
There's just no other way, I think.
Can I switch subjects a little bit? Because I just thought of something that was funny I did that's AI related this week. I had the AI try to assess my IQ.
Interesting.
This was a little bit, not like a formal test or anything,
Uh-huh.
but I just said based on our history of stuff and the kind of inquiries and how we interact, if you had to guess, I know it's imperfect, like what would you think? And I don't know. It said I would be in the top 10%, and it gave its reasons. And it pegged me at around like 130 or something.
Based on like just dialogue.
It was like by the pushback, not
Yeah,
just
yeah,
the
yeah.
pushback that I give,
Interesting.
but the frequency of the pushback. Because then I said, well, what would have put me like higher? And it's like, well, like pushing back against things, not just accepting. I said, but I do that all the time, I feel like. And it's like, yeah, but the frequency you could do like, so it was like, kind of, I was like, because I've never done like an IQ test, I don't really care. I was like partially like, all right, that's not too bad. But then I was also like mad at it, because like,
Interesting.
yeah, you should try it
That's
this week
funny.
and see if
So
you have one with the big memory.
I'll do that. So when I was 12, so I'm in 5th or 6th grade, and our algebra teacher, gave an IQ test to all his students. And this was a government grant he got and did things. So I had a point of reference. I had an IQ test when I was 12, and I took it again when I was maybe 30. And
Was it the exact same thing?
it was the exact same thing to a point. It was unbelievable. It was like, that's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's neat in a way. It was, for me, it's always been, okay, well, IQ can measure something innate.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah,
It's
it is
not
actually
It's
important.
not what you've learned. It's,
So did you crack 100 or?
I cracked 100.
Okay,
Barely.
that's good.
Yeah.
No, you said that before. There's an importance to the IQ, just in terms of people's inherent capabilities and.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I remember standing, I'm probably 20-ish, and I'm standing in the Jefferson Memorial with my best friend one night, and we're reading How All Men Are Created Equal, and have a good debate about that, And it's like, the point is, we aren't all created equal.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't all the same, but we're created with equal opportunity and rights from God.
Yeah.
Right. That's a little different. Yes, people are born. I can't play in the NBA ever.
Yeah.
Right. Never. I can probably do some more calculus than some people.
There's
It's just differences.
there's different kinds of MBAs
NBAs.
to play in.
Yeah.
You're not in the basketball arena, but
Okay.
you got your own NBA that you're in, where
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got everybody's got their talent stack. And I mean, you can go all the way down. I did a lot of research on Down's families, Down's children, and Down's families, because my wife and I got married when she was older. We still want to have a lot of kids. So, like, we had our last kid in her 40s.
right.
And I was a real possibility, like a high percentage I could have a Down's child.
Yeah.
And all the research I did, reading accounts and seeing families, was that that was a wonderful experience.
It's an enrichment. It's not a
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like that Down's child has his own talent stack, her own talent stack
Right.
and personality, and brings things to the world. So yeah, we have to stop looking at superiority, and it's like we're all the
Yeah.
same level. We have different skills, but we're all the same. Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's my moralizing for the day.
Well, it's funny because as crappy as like a lot of the stuff going on geopolitically and like in our country and just around is like it's kind of cool in a way that people like us have an opportunity to come in and like make a real difference. If everything was just normal and humming along, that'd be one thing. But this actually you could look at as a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
And I feel like what we're doing is sort of like that because I even see people like, SaaS software is going away. It's a tool. It's not a business plan. If you develop that, and it's just like, actually, I don't know if I 100% agree because the thing that we're making, I think people do need it, like, and they need it now in a way that they may not have needed it like at a different time. Like it's a tool for right now.
Well, and come back to Turning Point USA and college kids, and I think of high school kids, junior high kids, homeschool kids. You have to reach people early, and you have to give them the tools to find objective truth and morality. And I think that's the most effective way to change. It's an opportunity, and you have to change that. You have to get to them early, because the rest of society will brainwash them into their immoral values.
Yeah, it's like the quote, if people won't try to escape if they don't know they're in prison. And I butchered that, but
That's a good quote, though.
Yeah. I mean, so to be able to provide the tool that helps you maybe see the prison first before you try to escape, I think that is a valuable thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to, there's a point at which you need to be exposed to the wokeness and horribleness, but not until. So here's a funny story. When I was building the log cabin, I had this year basically by myself, man in the woods by himself building this. And I had just a radio. It was before streaming and everything. And Glenn Beck was a radio guy, maybe local at that point. And so it's just what was on, and I would listen to him. And he had to, and we were about to start. No, we weren't homeschooling yet. My oldest was 3. But he was talking about homeschooling. I vividly recall this. And he's like talking about how screwed up the kids were and how bad that was going to be. And then he met a friend who did it. And he said, and he came up with a line that I always remember. He's like, yeah, now I realize you have to let the concrete set before they're exposed to this stuff.
Yeah.
So he became an advocate. Beck became an advocate of homeschooling.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And I've actually come to believe that even college is a little too soon. Even college is a little too soon well, and my kids went early. They went to 17. So that it could be maybe at 19 or 18. Maybe it would have been better, but they did fine. But it's like, I think you let that concrete set really, really strong.
Yeah.
Let it cure.
It's funny because so what you're saying is it's a process, and it's not necessarily like at any given point in a person's life can you break in and expose the prison and help, here's the escape plan. So that's interesting. It's a process. I wonder if AI would be able to identify where someone's at in the process and then present the right nugget to move to the next start of the process. You know what I mean? Like, could you accelerate the process even though, you know what I mean?
It's difficult, and it'll be there. Ed tech. Hopefully, our product is evolving and can help. But I think you need to. My experience with kids is they're all at a different spot. So, like you said, you need to know where they're at, and then they're on top of that. The psychology, their motivations are different. Like some kids like to debate. So if you expose one side, they'll debate the other side, and then they'll start to identify with the position they're debating.
Yeah.
And now that's a mistake because you're helping them entrench into the wrong side.
Yeah.
So I think it takes definitely like careful assessment of how you're going to move someone to find the truth and not let them get off track.
Yeah. And nothing better than a Socratic way of going about it, I think.
That's, yeah.
Because then they've
It
drawn
was
their own
words.
conclusion.
It's their own words.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Socratic training would be great.
Yeah.
I wish I had that.
So, dude, have you been using voice? Let's just say voice. Doesn't have to be a specific AI system, but have you been using it?
Yeah,
pretty heavily.
I use ours.
There's the
I've
button right
tried-
there.
There's the button. I've tried open AIs. I use theirs sometimes, and it's super efficient in certain situations, like driving.
Yeah.
It's super efficient for driving.
You can get stuff done, work done in
Yeah.
times when you couldn't before.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I've noticed.
Now we aren't that agentic yet. No, ours isn't, and some have some, but I don't even use any of them.
Yeah.
So we aren't far enough along. But you can totally see where we're getting to the point, 6 or 12 months from now, where it's like, you're walking through, you're talking, you're asking questions. Okay, now do me a favor and email that to John.
Yeah.
And, also make a spreadsheet for me and put those ideas in it. You can see that's next. That'll be there
Yes.
soon.
Totally. It was funny. I had to do a photo shoot for something outside this week. And so I brought the earbuds and I said, I'm on a photo shoot. What should I know and what should I think about? And it was like, well, try to get a low angle shot and do this. And I was like, oh, yeah, it never would have occurred to me. And it's just like, yeah. And so it's like, it's almost getting to the point where it's like, if you're not using it, I guess for me personally, like,
You're going to do worse.
I'm X% at a disadvantage.
At a handicap.
Yeah, which is scary because now we're getting into that Neuralink discussion. But
Well, wait, Neuralink on one hand or, replacement of the person on the other. I mean, you send an Optimus robot out to do a photo shoot. And
yeah, but who sends out the robot?
a person does.
Yeah.
But still, I mean,
Right.
but maybe you don't want us to end up just our brain on a desk
No.
ordering machines or to do things.
But part of that might be like, do I want to do the photo shoot? If I do, I'll go out and do it. But maybe I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So then I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I may not develop like everyone.
I'm going to recommend
Thanks.
again that original Star Trek show to you from the 60s. That just Google Brains in Jars Star Trek and watch that episode.
Okay. Yeah, I should check that.
Because I think that's...
Was it a Next Generation? It was an original.
No,
It was the original. Okay.
From the 60s, yeah.
Okay. I admit that's going to be hard for me to watch. I still have a little bit of a recency bias.
Yeah. It's not as well done, but the thoughts, the content is still interesting.
Did you ever see? I watched very few of these, but of the like 3 that I watched, the Black Mirror episode there was like the Star Trek one where the guy gets sucked into the thing, and like they don't have private parts, and it's like, but yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Simulation.
Yeah, of that particular. It was like someone's pet project, right? Like the people were making him mad, and he put him in this game.
Right. Right. I mean, that's the whole Musk simulation theory, right?
Yeah.
That we're all there.
I'm so unimpressed with that. The more I think about that, the simulation thing.
I think it's one of those unknowable things, so it doesn't matter to me. I don't spend a lot of time on
I
it.
find that it's a tool of obfuscation for people who want to put off the idea of actually thinking about God.
It's an alternative hypothesis.
And it's
It may be good
a
or
pretty
bad.
lame one, I think.
Yeah, I
and
think you're
and the same with the multiverse also. Theory.
Well, it's a lame one because you'd like your hypothesis to give you meaning, right? That would be part of it.
I suppose, but if you're a purely secular person, you don't care.
No, I think people still want meaning,
They want it, but they wouldn't. They would have to.
and they try to create it, and you see it. They try to create it.
Yeah.
So,
But if they were sticking to the principles, they would have to say they didn't care. But yeah.
yeah, but they know. I mean, everybody knows. Everybody will admit that. Like,
Yeah.
everybody. It's like they get themselves. It's like Harris's Moral Landscape. Moral Landscapes. Is that what it's called? Sam Harris's book, where he basically tries to create morality
Yeah.
out of science.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody kind of admits you need morality.
Oh yeah.
And then, so now it's like, now drive back what's underneath there. I mean, so all these things, we know we need certain things. And so then you try to backfill. It's like,
Yeah.
they can't unless it's God.
For the 10 people watching this, the book Science and the Good is a good
Science and the Good.
Science and the Good
Okay.
is an excellent refutation of that.
Harris's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to read though. It's dense, but it is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I was not impressed with his arguments.
No, and he's gotten really weird and political on top of his already annoying positions.
He didn't care if Hunter had dead children in his basement.
Yeah.
He'd still rather.
But people still see him as very reasonable.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
It's because he has such a articulate, calm speaking manner.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy listening to him.
Yeah.
He's wrong many times. But.
I like a good debate. You know, like when he was doing the Peterson talks, you know, like it
Yeah,
was.
I didn't like those.
You didn't?
Peterson just kind of was a little effeminate and a little soft with them.
You feel like he could have done a better
oh yeah,
job.
Peterson could have done much better.
I hate that. But I guess that's a process too. Peterson, I think, has been on a journey. He probably wouldn't like to admit that, but I mean, like he's had to.
Yeah, he's had a journey, and people respond differently to different people.
Yeah.
Right, and so you mentioned, if we had, someone all of Trump's policies, but who is articulate and it's like, yeah, but that person wouldn't be the bull in the china shop we want, probably, right? And that's what I keep coming back to. It's like you have to just kind of appreciate the whole package.
Yeah.
It's too easy. We can all be armchair quarterbacks and critical, and it's too easy to pick apart and say, I don't like this piece of that person.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, idiot. Then that's not that person anymore. It's like you aren't you if you take part of you away.
That's true. I think a lot of people have just become bored with Trump because just like he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So I think they're just like they're tired of hearing about it. Kind of like, and that's a legitimate thing, I guess. But that doesn't have anything to do with like successful policies or anything.
Well, I got to tell you, I give some percentage now of wanting Trump to be elected to having Musk as Doge. Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
Why does he always have to acronym everything?
He's a funny guy.
Actually,
he tries not. So that's like Dogecoin, right? That's his deal. But in his companies, he castigates people for acronyms.
He does?
Yeah.
Because they came out with actually smart summon here the other day.
Yeah.
ASS.
Oh, actually, that's funny. I think he does that for fun, but from a work standpoint, he's like, you can't have to have like a glossary to carry around to understand how things work in a company. All you're doing is making efficiency, so you seem smarter.
Yeah.
And he has letters, you can read emails where he's ticked off that people do this. But part of my wanting Trump to win now is seeing Musk try and be our Afuela moment of Argentina. And I like Kennedy. I don't agree with most of his policies, but I do agree with him wanting to look into vaccines and make us healthier. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that as long as the government's not overbearing at it. And then, hopefully Trump will...
People are talking about Massey now getting in on stuff.
Yeah, so I haven't heard much about that.
Do you like Massey or...
I don't think I know enough.
He seems all right. I know his wife died recently, but he's very much like he has a plot of land and wants to be self-sufficient. He's angry. You would appreciate this. He grows his own cattle, to market, but because of some stupid regulation, he can't sell it to his neighbor. He has to like drive really far away to get it processed, and then it costs more. And so you guys, I think you would actually sync up on a lot of that stuff.
Well, it's, we talked about before, and I'm coming back to this. If people don't have varied experiences, they've experienced, then they're kind of in this one track their whole lives of what they do. They experience some government intervention in their lives early, and now they're numb to that because it's the same thing for 20 years. If you do different things, like you probably saw Musk's, like they got $150,000 fine, SpaceX, for pouring water on the ground.
Right.
And he's like...
And it rains there all the time.
He's like, we're in rain belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually floods.
Yeah.
And you're going to charge us $150,000. It's insane. And he made the good point that I've talked about is we don't sunset bills. We just keep stacking them up.
Till everything's illegal.
And that's where we're at.
That's very true. Here's what I liked about Massey recently. he was like, okay, so they were all working on the spending bill, right? The government shutdown, which it never actually happens, not even a threat.
Sometimes it happens, and they'll shut down the Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
You probably weren't old enough to remember that. Do you remember that?
Was that in the
Obama?
90s?
That was
No.
Obama.
Oh, okay.
And they shut down the government. Can't remember who was speaker at that point, the Republicans. They shut down the government. And so what Obama did is he's like, gave orders to shut down all the, it was like a holiday. Shut down all, Labor Day maybe. Shut down all the national parks. No, it must have been around Easter. Shut down the national parks. Shut down the Easter egg hunt on the White House. Everything public facing that didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Stupid. That is dumb.
So Massey.
But yeah, he was like, what he said was something like, I'm not going to participate in this theater because I know in 2 weeks or whatever, you're going to pass the bill. And all of this is just, you want to look like you're not.
Time. Good for
Yeah.
him.
And then sure enough, Mike Johnson caved, didn't even include the SAVE Act. And boom, it was passed. What is the point of Johnson? I think he's even worse than the last dude who I already didn't really love.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with our speakers. You know, maybe the nature of the person who can become speaker is the one who's the harmonizer and settles because they can get the most votes.
Yeah.
And so then
Well,
that person then harmonizes and settles.
How many people do you think have been homegrown? Like you look at Obama, he was like really not really anybody, right? And back in the day when he was like running for Senate or whatever, he had his picture with P. Diddy, right? Or whatever. Maybe that's not here nor there. But what I'm saying is if you were somebody like a Soros type of person, maybe not Soros, but a Soros type person, right? A global elite sort of person. Would you go around and identify kind of a no-name person
Manchurian candidate time?
and upgrade them through the system? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because
Did you ever see the Manchurian Candidate?
the original or
Either.
wasn't there a Denzel?
Either,
I
yeah.
did. I don't quite remember it all.
Yeah, you should watch it again. I mean, that's definitely the concept. Let's.
But I mean, in reality,
I think they did that.
In
I
reality.
do. I looked really.
because Johnson seems like he'd be like that.
Yeah,
Like
I
he doesn't.
looked at that.
He talks about stuff, but he doesn't. He doesn't act. It's just the words are like Republican, but not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it might be this moderate thing that you have to be moderate to win that position.
Yeah.
And because you aren't going to get just the 20% extreme right vote and become speaker. You can't become speaker like that.
Yeah.
You have to get the majority. So it could be that you're just always doomed. You can never have anyone strong in that position.
And then we end up with Zelensky campaigning for Kamala.
The heck? And
More or less.
Shapiro signing missiles that
Yeah.
they're going to drop on humans.
Right.
That was
Haley
kinda
did that
crazy.
too, if you remember.
No,
Yeah.
really.
They're real idiots. See, that's
Yeah.
that neocon crowd. That's like Dick Cheney. It's weird because now you have a Kennedy on the one up flipped, and then the Cheney flip. It's
Yeah.
just like it's not about Republican, Democrat
and
anymore.
all these Democrats being red pilled, like the All In podcast guys and Musk, and I mean, we're getting a lot of people realizing, I was fed a lie.
Who's the real lib guy on All In?
Freeberg?
Jason.
Calcanus.
He got spanked by Megyn Kelly the other day. Did you see that?
That was awesome. Yeah, she did so well. I mean, she's sharp.
I don't really like Megyn Kelly actually.
But
that was funny.
I've waffled in and out of Megyn Kelly's fandom, but yeah,
That was funny.
she's sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so. Yeah. Is there any other news that we should be thinking?
Let's
about?
just wrap up. I want to ask one more thing. What is your take on the Kardashev scale? And basically, for people who don't know, it's like there's different stages that any civilization, we know about the human civilization, but that would have to go through, and you graduate up the scale to. Is it basically around energy?
It's around energy, and then eventually
And your
you're doing a
capabilities.
Dyson sphere at the end.
Yeah, because I heard Musk say so. A lot of the people that I follow, they talk about all the time. Kardashev, we're accelerating. Like so and so wants to go for Kardashev scale. Like so that they orient their life around it, right? And it's interesting because we're seeing a lot of nuclear talk. Like Apple's quietly added nuclear to the list of safe things on their website. All of a sudden, like as soon as AI was in the picture, everyone's going nuclear.
Idiots.
So what is your take on Kardashev? Musk said, I saw the other day, like when you look at the Kardashev scale, you have to go solar. Like solar is going to be the main thing there. How how achievable in your mind is climbing up to number 3, 2 or 3?
Well, I'd push back on that a little bit. I agree with Musk that solar is a good answer, but in the end, solar is capturing. There's a first. What is it? He calls them first causes, whatever, first principles. There's a first principle behind solar, and that's fusion.
Yeah.
Right. We're capturing fusion, nuclear energy. So, I think you could make the argument that nuclear is probably more instrumental than solar.
Even in space.
Yeah. I mean, if
What would that be? It'd be like the equivalent of having a nuclear sub, but just you'd have a nuclear space station or ship.
Yeah, well, so current nuclear is fission, split the atoms. And we've been good at that for 70 years. Fusion is much more promising and doesn't make radioactive byproducts and so forth. And it's what stars burn on. It's how stars work. But if you could have a small, eventually, 100 years from now, you could have a fusion generator the size of this cup
Yeah.
that powered a whole city. It's like, yeah, that seems better than having to string out acres of solar panels. I'm
Yeah.
fully a solar guy. I have
Yeah.
multiple installations myself, and it makes sense to just capture a fusion ball that's there now.
Yeah.
But
So how plausible, I guess, I don't remember what the actual rungs are on the
Yeah,
ladder,
I
like
don't
stage
either.
2 and what I just know where it tries to end up and you're capturing like all the energy in a galaxy or solar system or something. I don't know. But how plausible do you think, and how quickly, if it was plausible, would you see that like 10 generations, 5 generations?
like a Dyson sphere, or
Yeah, and especially I guess I'm asking as AI comes online. And the reason I'm asking that is I found as useful as AI is already, I'm not even just talking about ours or anybody else, like it does seem to have some limits. And I don't know how much of that is inherent limits versus just like where it's at right now. Because sometimes I'll just be like, tell me something that's really going to blow my mind. And it can't find something to blow my mind.
yeah,
And-
I think it's possible that, and that's the big debate in my head. Are we asymptotically hitting the point of human training? Like we can't get smarter than us because it's not trained on, which maybe means it doesn't have creativity to think outside of anything it's been trained on. That's possible. And maybe that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah. Well, you see people talking about here, we're doing like novel protein folds using AI that no one's come up with that before. So
Yeah.
that's kind of along the lines of like going
Did
beyond.
it break out? I don't know if that means a breakout. We can do protein folding simulation manually. It just takes us
Just the speed of what was already doable.
decades to do. It's like it's not going beyond that capability. It's doing that capability much faster.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out if the curve looks like this and I can't see it.
or if it's peaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question. So obviously the computing power is exponential.
Yeah.
Right? We're doing that. I would probably say, so technology is not usually just exponential or asymptotic. It's usually S curves. So it's like this and then flattens. And then
Yeah.
a new breakthrough comes and it's this and then flattens. And you can see AI is going like this as far as its capabilities. The question is, does that keep going or does that flatten out?
Right.
And I don't think I have an answer to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to think more through that if it can
I-
exceed its trainers. Can the master exceed this? Can the student exceed the master?
Right. Yes. It's interesting. I feel like we need a new crop of Christian apologists. And I include like mere Christianity, not, Catholic Protestant, just like Christians thinking about the future. And I like this kind of thing. Something I should probably spearhead, but no one's thinking about this stuff in relation to, it's purely secular thinkers thinking about quote unquote acceleration and Kardashev stuff.
Right.
And it's interesting because if I try to survey what do Christians using technology think about AI right now, you have people who I think a lot of people call like wacko, right? Who more conspiracy theory, like the government has crazy AI. But what it amounts to is like distrust of technology, distrust of AI. And then you have people on the other end who would be more like hands off. Technology is bad for a different reason. Like it's anti-human or whatever. And then you have like some people in the middle who are just like wishy-washy. What's your assessment of like the Christendom and AI? Like, what have you run into in terms of the viewpoints?
Yeah, so I've definitely run into the viewpoints of concern that it might be an evil thing. I've definitely run into that it's going to rob us of humanity. I mean, personally, you and I, there's two data points that are accepting of it and realize it could have bad implications and good implications. So I don't really know. I'd like to see a public opinion poll on that. That'd be interesting to see. I don't even know what the question is. Like, we willing to use expectations of the future,
Yeah.
right? That would be interesting
I
to know about.
feel like there's an opportunity to shape the conversation because I think the structure that's in place for Christianity right now is rather set. And like Kruptos is always talking about running off the liberal operating system. But I feel like there's a place to be a leader here and say, we've thought about this. And you could even do it the Socratic way. Like, what happens if X, Y, or Z? And I think that would be important. Maybe I'm finding
No, yeah.
some information that we need to tackle.
Yeah, shaping the dialogue, at least question it. I have one more data point. My the priest that I lost, probably one of the best men I've ever met, who left into another position in Switzerland, and his input was, I feel like this is a Greek tragedy. It's like we all know it, we know where it's headed, and yet we're going full bore into it.
Yeah.
So, and he's a very reasonable. I mean, he uses his cell phone and texts people, but I think he's able to stand back and assess it. And like I told you, I'm split. Part of me's got the agrarian, neo-Amish Catholic communities, and part of me is the accelerationist. This is going to be the abundance, the material abundance is going to be very have a lot of benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting. This harkens back to our coffee shop talks, but when we were thinking about starting this company, but it's like, even if it is a Greek tragedy, I think the conclusion you and I basically came to is like, well, Christians should have a part to play in the tragedy.
If it's inevitable that it's coming, then we feel a need to try and help save a portion of society. You can go save a small community, right? Let's create a little Amish community. Or you can try to affect the broader society.
Yeah, and it's been nice this week to see some people expressing interest from a certain sector, at least in the business. So I feel like we're on the cusp of really starting to fulfill the purpose and mission of the
we
company.
need so businesses keep KPIs, key performance indexes, and metrics for how they're performing, and that could be obvious profit and loss, and then underneath it could be like customer satisfaction and things you measure, productivity. We should have a productivity measurement, like how many children did we save from wokeness? Some kind of like tangible variables that you can measure, and
that would be cool.
That would be super gratifying.
Definitely, yeah. So check out objectivereality.ai. We use it, we love it, and we've got some other people starting to get very excited also.
Yeah, get on the waiting list. We're about to release.